I think it depends on like the environment that you're curating for yourself. Cause sometimes it'd be like people be like new year, new me, and I'm like, if you're like waiting for the year to like make those changes and the new year to make those changes, it feels like you'll find any reason not to make them. Cause like the year is like it's something that you know comes like every year. So like, what was stopping you from doing it earlier? You know what I mean? It's like weird, but I don't know. I definitely feel it though. Depending on what situation you're in, sometimes that's the motivation you need to keep going.
You ain't been doing what you supposed to do, my nigga. You ain't been moving how you supposed to move, you truant nigga. Saying you waiting for a time to...
You know it's your favorite Latina, Katiria, and I'm here with someone very special. He's an amazing artist. He's a podcaster. Bad for the community, but good for the community. I have Nate here, present with us.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to be here. You know what I mean? This is my first time here, so I'm actually really excited.
Yes, thank you for coming. Thank you for just bringing great energy. When did it all start? Was it like you as a personality or you as a musician and artist?
Yeah, so I think like when I was really young, like I always was into poetry, like very like heavily. Like I started off doing like spoken word and also just doing a lot of like creative writing. And poetry was always something that called to me. I felt like I would enter into poetry competitions when I was younger, like in middle school and even before. And it was cool being recognized on kind of like a local level, and then like it transitioned from there into kind of like enter into like national competitions and stuff for like my writing, which was cool.
Wow.
But when I got into
You're
high
play
school,
on words. I can hear that in your music. So.
yeah, it's like just being able to like know all of the kind of like the ways that I can manipulate like language in a way, you know what I mean? But when I got to high school, I kind of like faded out of like the poetry realm, just because I feel like, at least for my high school, I went to a match high school in Brighton.
Right.
It was really like very like academics based.
Yeah.
So extracurriculars for me at least weren't like a focus, you know what I mean? Especially when it came to the arts, we didn't have like much if any arts programming at all in the school.
For real?
Yeah, so it was like not until my senior year that there was a club that was like centered around like hip hop. And it's cool because like one of the people that was in that club or like helped get that club off the ground was like Tomo, who's like another person that we do the podcast with.
Really?
So, yeah, we went to middle school and high school together.
You already know how we rocking. It's another episode of Bad for the Community. And it's your host, Rob the 508 God. I got Nate next to my right.
How you doing?
I got Tomo to my left and St. East to my
Why you skipping?
I'm saying yeah, fact. I don't know, bro.
Nate to boom, then boom. Because, bro.
Because
he never sits in that seat.
I don't ever sit.
And that's what it is, bro.
Usually it's Tomo to my right, got St. East to my left, Nate next in the room. Hello, how you doing? But it's not that.
We still here.
But like other niggas are like on some shit, like just being like, I don't care what the fuck you think, y'all niggas this, y'all niggas that, everybody this, and I'm like, damn, bro, like why niggas really like hate each other? Like what's wrong? Like what's actually wrong with niggas, bro? Like you don't have to be this way. If we really all part of the same scene, why do niggas hate each other? Stop hating each other.
When you guys all got together, was it like, okay, we're gonna be the biggest podcast, or was it something that is just a fun thing to do with each other?
So I think like our goals overall is that we want to be able to have like the podcast as like an additional stream of income when it comes down to our own creative endeavors. Like obviously all of us are artists, like I said before, but being able to like make money off of your art is something that a lot of artists aren't able to do. And so like for us, we all find ways to do it, which is dope. And like the podcast is just another way where we're pouring a lot into it right now because we want to see that as like an additional way to like earn income as an artist. Like you'll see the podcast and you'll see that we have like branding like pretty much like everywhere. You know what I mean? Because we're like, it's not just about like us, but it's about whoever we're working with or whoever believes in us. We want to make sure that you're like a prominent piece of every single frame, every single like, you know, sound clip, whatever.
That, yeah.
You know, so.
That's collaborating, that's community.
Yeah, exactly. My mom, she always wanted like me to just do something that like would make me happy, but that would also like make money, so that I wouldn't be like miserable because I was like trying to fund my craft instead of myself. So I think when I told her that I wanted to like make music, she was like on board with it. I remember like on my first studio sessions, like she would drive me there when I was just coming out of high school, because I was going to studio in Brookline. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't matter, like, what time of day it was or night. It was like, I'm coming home at, like, 12 midnight. She would still come pick me up, whatever.
But I think like as time wore on, like she also like was in that mode where she was like, believe in yourself and like fund the things that you feel like are important to fund. You feel me? Like do what you feel like you want to do so you don't regret not doing it later on. Cause like you live in fear when you do stuff like that. And like I guess that's just not something that she wants for me. You feel me? It's like living in fear, just like not being able to really put myself out there when I feel like I need to. I could only imagine like it would suck if I like lived in regret and like been like, oh, I had this or I could have done this. It's like I don't really spend too much time thinking about that now. So I guess it's also just like a product of how I was raised on that end as well.
Remember, kid, there's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered, legends live.
Do you believe the sun and the moon is real?
Yeah.
Is the earth flat?
No.
Why do you think it's not?
I think, well, I mean, there was a time where I was on a plane, and this was like my first time. I was like really young. My first time being on a plane, and we were like really high up, and you can kind of see like when it's
I thought
dark.
you said we were really high. I'm like,
No, we were really high in the air, and like you can see like when it's like transitioning from like day to like dawn to like dusk and all that stuff. You can kind of like see the curvature of the earth from being on it just by like looking out the window of a plane when you're high enough up. And that was my first time seeing it and being like, why is there that curve there? And then being like, cause like that's the shape of the planet that you're on in the atmosphere. And I was like, oh snap! I didn't know that.
You wouldn't think it was like a Sandy from SpongeBob. It's just like
No, it's just like
a bubble.
a bubble. Nah, I mean, because the way that it looks is that like you can like see the curvature, which is cool. It's not like a straight like circle or whatever, but it's like there's like curved pieces of it.
You believe in the aliens?
Aliens, yeah.
Would you have an alien friend?
No, I mean maybe I wouldn't know if they're alien probably if they were here, but I think that like when I think about extraterrestrial life, I'm not really thinking about like humanoid beings or something like that. It's like probably like bacteria, it's, you know, probably like these like other beings that we might not even recognize as being like extraterrestrial. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I don't think of like ET or anything like that and be like, oh, that's my guy. You feel me?
That's my guy.
You know?
We're about to ride a bike.
But it probably looks like very different than what we think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely, I feel the same way.
Before that, I didn't really care or think too much about like death or anything like that. But that was like one of the moments that really like allowed me to become like fascinated with the like concept of death. Not so much like the act of dying, but like the idea of like death itself. Because it's like, how do people treat you when you're alive versus how they treat you when you're dead? And like other things like that just like cross my mind often. I'm just like, dang.
What are some struggles that you have as an artist here in the city of Boston, period? Like
Yeah.
what would make it better, you feel?
I think in Boston, like, folks are becoming more and more connected to each other, which is great. I think there just needs to be more overlap and support for like the different pockets of music that people make.
Can
like
you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I know a lot of artists that are interested in, like we were talking earlier about like R&B, you know what I mean? Like I'm a hip hop artist, but then there's a lot of folks who are interested in like making like alternative rock music, and maybe they're interested in more kind of like folk music when they're creating songs, like they have like a more folk aesthetic. And I feel like people will support like hip hop stuff because it's something that they're familiar with, and they'll like dabble into R&B. But I feel like with other like sounding like genres and even subgenres of hip hop that aren't as prevalent, people don't really like, they're kind of like hesitant to like try them. They're hesitant to support them because they're like, oh, you're cool, but I might not go to that event. I don't know what it's gonna be like. I'm not really like cool with those people or whatever. But I feel like the more overlap we have in the scenes, the better, because then like we all get to be uplifted at the same time. It's not like just like, oh, we're supporting Nate because Nate is cool with, you know, Thrill, or Nate is like in this like hip hop scene in Boston, this particular one. It's like, nah, like I'm cool with these people because they make great music. I'm cool with these people because they make great music, you know what I mean? None of us are like weirdos, and we're all trying to like just
I can
uplift
see
each
how
other,
that
you know
was back in the day and now it's
Yeah.
transitioning, because it was like that. Like
Yeah.
the word clicky, everybody
Yeah.
used that, right?
It was, really,
And so
yeah.
it was. And so I see a lot of events that are like including everyone and doing a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
that makes me happy because I think collaboration is like the biggest thing to support just your peers.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot.
And not being afraid to collaborate too, because I
Not
think a
being
lot of
afraid,
people are
yeah.
like hesitant, not because like they
Why
don't
do you
like the
think?
music, but I think maybe it's because also they're just like kind of like in this mentality where they're like, if I work with you, then it's like I feel like that's the lane that people are putting me in, and they don't want to be like boxed in, which is dope. But I feel like without those collaborations, it's easy for people to box you in still, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because then they're just gonna know you for whatever your sound is at
Yeah.
the time, and not being able to like be versatile in that way. you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if you don't collaborate, people are like, oh, this person thinks that you're just too good.
Yeah, they're standoffish, like they're on their.
You can't win.
Weird. You know what I mean? But
can't
collaboration is key, you feel me?
Yeah.
Like that's how we all get better and that's how we push each other to grow as well.
Yeah.
You
Is
know what I
that
mean?
kind of how Bad for the Community came about? Like just collaborating with one another? Because I know Tomo's an artist too.
Yeah.
No, the other two aren't.
No, yeah, they're artists.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, because I hear like you and Tomo the most, but like
Yeah.
how did that come about? Like was it through music first, or like, oh hey, we all are funny?
Yeah.
And shit?
So it's actually funny because Tomo's like cool with like all of us. He's kind of like the bridge that kind of like brought us together. Because like I said, me and him went to school together, and then like we were making music together. But he also, when he was going to UMass Lowell, he met Roberto and also Eves through like mutual friends and connections and stuff like that, and just being on campus. Because Eves didn't go to Lowell, he went to Amherst, but they were all like able to connect through like mutuals, and then you know they have a group called KOBK. They were able to like join together and make music together. And then Roberto wanted to start a podcast. Me and Tomo already had a podcast called Rhyme or Reason, which is like music podcast. And then they brought them over. Tomo brought them over to my office where we recorded our podcast, and they were like, "Yo, this is dope. Like, let's do something together." They started their podcast. They invited me to join. And then like the rest is history. But Roberto's a rapper.
Yeah.
And then Eves is a photographer, producer, and just he does a lot.
It all
of great
came
things.
together.
Yeah. Some people like they look at it as like, oh, like they were like the Locks were seen as like dreadful, whatever. That's what they called like the warriors in like Ethiopia when they like combated them, but against like colonial powers. But I think that it's like I don't really mind that because I feel like that's something that like colonial powers like feared or whatever.
You're an artist, you're an entrepreneur as well. So you're like, for me, in the beginning, I'm like, I have to keep going, because if I take one break, like, like someone else gonna come right behind me, and like it's one of those things, but also like burnout. You know, when you're like not creating your best, when it's just sloppy. So I could definitely feel that. And, I feel like a lot of artists don't talk about it too, because it's like I'm strong, I could do this, but like being creative is not just like, oh, let's just take a coloring book, like, and let's just draw between the lines. It's more than that.
It's
like
a lot of
said,
work.
You have in your mind, you're projecting it.
Right, it's brain power that you're expending, and it's also like emotional labor that's being put into it as well, because you care about the work that you're creating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of the biggest things that I always tell like a lot of younger artists that I'm working with is that I want them to focus on controlling the variables that they can control. You know what I mean? Because like you can't control everything, obviously. Like not everything's gonna be in control, but like certain things you really can control. Like it's just about like, for example, like the time that you like go to sleep, the time that you wake up, you know what I mean? Like what you ate that day, all those things like play a role in like how well you are able to create in different ways, shapes and forms, you know what I mean? So for them, it's like, yo, control what you can control and try your best. You feel me? Like all those things, if you're able to do that, then like let whatever come may come. You feel me? Whatever, it'll do what it does. But if you're in control of what you're in control of, you'll be a lot more successful because you're not worried about those things. You're prepared for them. You can't stop them, but you're prepared for them. You feel me? And that's the best way to approach it at the end of the day. I'm from Roxbury. You know what I mean? I'm from like right around here, Copeland Street. And then I also spent parts of my time in Grove Hall as well. Grove Hall, Franklin Park area. Growing up in Roxbury, one of the things that I always kind of encountered was there's a lot of arts culture here, but I also think that a lot of that culture is stifled by displacement. Cause like even for myself, like I grew up in a house, when I was like young up until really like late grade school, and then I ended up living into like an apartment, and like that shift was like tough because in a house, like you can make more noise, all the stuff that you really like look to do with your, like when you're a kid, you're like wanting to like have fun, jump around, whatever. But living in an apartment's a little different. Like you're like kind of knowing that it's not just you, but you have like a bunch of people like next to you, above you, all types of stuff. And there's no like separation in between you guys for real. So it was a little tougher because I played like African drums, and like when I was in my apartment, they like hated hearing it. They would always like be like, yo, y'all too loud, whatever. So that was tough. But I think like it's all just part of like the learning experience. Sometimes I wonder if like being stifled in that way, like artistically, or just creatively in general, also like helped amplify my drive to want to be creative as I got older. Because I was like, now that I have more flexibility and comfortability to make more noise, to be more loud with my voice and with my movements, that I can like open up more and like do that through art.
So 5 years from now, like where do you see your music? Where do you see yourself as an artist? Like, where you want to be at? Because there's people that like, oh, I just want to be low key. I want to write. I want to do music. And there's people that like, I'm ready to join the Illuminati.
They're like,
I'm ready
like
to
my
be
soul.
iPod.
I'm trying to get it out of here. Now for me, I think like I've always wanted to make music. I've always wanted to be like a creative. I'm not like much for like the spotlight. So I think oftentimes like when I think about myself in 5 years or even like in a shorter time frame, right? I just want to be creating art for people, with people, without necessarily having to be like at the forefront of like the artistic scene, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like writing songs for people, you know what I mean? Being able to do like a lot of like sync licensing stuff where it's just like I'm creating stuff and then, you know, pitching it and then get picked up and then that's all I'm doing, making songs for commercials and stuff like that.
Jingles and stuff.
You know, like because for me at least, I think that those things are valuable. Like that also helps make the like artist economy circulate well, but it also kind of like alleviates some things for me where I don't have to worry about being like on the clock all the time as an artist, you know what I mean? So
you're definitely bringing a lot of business into it because that's what music business is about, knowing different avenues that you can monetize your music or being creative. And so like licensing, creating music, creating jingles, all of that stuff, it's definitely great to hear that because it's more than just streams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. We all know that Nate won't join the Illuminati. Super great. No, seriously, because like,
nah, definitely not.
it just kind of sucks when like you just see people growing up and then like, you know, you ask them that question like, how do you see yourself in 5 years? And like, I want to be rich, famous, like I want to be an icon, and it's just like, I kind of think about it. I'm like, damn, like, so do you want it for the look, or do you feel like you want that because you've been doing a lot in your music that you should be at that level?
Right, and I think that's probably where it comes from for most people.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they're like, I'm putting in all this work, like I want to see like the biggest payoff possible.
Right,
You know what I mean? To them, that's like the stuff that they've seen on TV and the stuff that they see like on their phone when they're on Twitter or whatever. They're just like, oh, look at all these celebrities doing their thing. But they don't necessarily want the celebrity lifestyle more so than they want the celebrity like fame.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
they want to be famous, but they don't want to be a celebrity. And that's kind of like where I'm at. But I feel like maybe I'm just like better at articulating it in that way because it's like I've thought about it.
Yeah. It's my birthday today. Said it's my birthday today. 20-something and changing, steady paving my way. Fighting battles I started before I came, so this hearted wasting away for a change. Shit ain't moving how I prayed to God it would. My granddad been passed, I still ain't make it out the hood, just moved away. Every day I make mistakes, I feel my heart inside my chest, yet feeling hollow all the same.